not financial professionals, and this podcast is designed for entertainment purposes only. We are regular folks who do research and present opinions to an audience in a fun way. Our opinions should not be construed with the views of any organizations we may be affiliated with. This podcast does not represent the thoughts, intentions, plans, strategies of our employers. It only represents the opinions of the authors. If you need specific guidance on your own financial situation, please consult a financial fiduciary professional.
Happy Sunday, Money Vikings.
There it is.
What's going on, guys?
Happy Sunday.
Oh, man.
Hey, Bob and Jerry. Happy Labor Day.
Yeah.
Is
Happy
today
Labor Day.
the day of labor, or is it tomorrow?
Well,
is it today?
It's tomorrow, but it's
okay. Don't get ahead of yourself, because tomorrow's the day.
Well, it's Labor Day weekend. I did have a very nice beer today, called Space Something. I'll share that with you later. But so I don't know. We're doing this weird. It's like a weird Labor Day too, because we're all home. For this pandemic, we're not around a bunch of people. So
yeah.
But that's all right. We got a great show for everybody today. So that's
sure do. We sure do. I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. And I did find out that Labor Day started in 1882. This is a little factoid. 1882 by labor union leader Peter McGuire, and it was a national tribute to the strength, prosperity, and well-being of our country.
Nice.
Wow.
Bam.
I like it.
It wasn't just about beer. Anyway, hey, we got a great show for everybody out there. How many followers now? How many listeners do we have now, Jerry?
I think one day we went up to 20 or something. It was
wow.
Nice.
Look at that. So to all 21 of you, Jerry's gonna cover margin account management today, which is very important for those of you with a margin account, where your broker is lending you some cash to purchase stocks. How do you manage that? And I'm curious to hear that from you, Jer. And then I'm going to talk about and get your guys' ideas. I was really interested this week. And Jerry, I've written a lot about this, is the psychology of money, right?
Right.
The psychology of money. I think that is so key, like our relationship with investing and money and time. I'm always interested in that. And I wanted to share some cool stuff that I learned this week, and a guy that I really think you guys should look up on YouTube named Dan Ariely, Ariely. He's an Israeli economist, and had some cool stuff to say. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, let's do it. Should we do margin account management?
Margin account management. Sure. I'd be happy to talk about that. Exciting stuff, really.
Make it exciting, Jerry. You make it exciting.
Well, what I can do, most of my experience is with Tastyworks, kind of managing it in there. And I have what they call a bite-sized account, which is way less than, $25,000. And what they do, as long as you deposit, I believe the minimum is $2,000. They double the amount of money that you can trade options and purchase stocks against, for the most part. And so if you were to put in $4,000, you would have this notion of buying power, which would go up to $8,000. So you could actually spend up to $8,000 of money, only having about $4,000 in your account, which is kind of interesting. And leverage and margin always seems to get a bad name, but really it's about being able to manage the account and being able to understand how much risk you're taking on. For example, in my account, I'll never say never, but generally I try not to exceed 50% of my available buying power. It's not a hard and fast rule, but if I have $8,000 in my account, I will not use if I have $4,000 in my account and I get $8,000 of buying power, I'm typically not going to exceed the 50% mark, or $4,000. So
because you could be on the hook for that, right?
oh, definitely,
If things
definitely.
went
You could get
south.
the dreaded
Right.
margin call where the
Yeah,
positions,
get a margin call.
I've never had one, but the positions that you have could go one way or the other, where you're suddenly you don't have enough to cover, and the brokerage wants you to deposit more, or they reserve the right, I believe, to automatically sell some of your other positions to make it right if you
Do it
don't have
for
the
you.
cash
Yeah.
there. So, have either of you ever had a margin call or experimented with this?
I have, and I actually had a margin call too. My first time ever really knowing how to play with margin, and luckily was able to recover before the margin call took effect. But yeah, I've had it happen.
Yeah, it's
You know,
it's not fun, and you kind of
It's not fun.
It's not a
so
position you want to
know
be in.
know what you're getting into in advance,
Yeah,
and put
Right.
those
Absolutely.
constraints on yourself. This is gonna, once again, we kind of did this serendipitously, but you'll see later. This is gonna be like a great connection to the psychology, right, of managing money.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
because
So-
that's a lot of it.
with and in particular in Tastyworks, you actually have two buying power amounts. One is your option buying power, and another one is your stock buying power. And typically, your stock buying power is double of the option buying power. So it's interesting too. I mean, because options can get you into a lot more trouble quickly than stock can usually. So that's why they have less buying power. And I typically, what I do is with my option buying power, I have that be 50% of the entire value of the account and not exceed it. I could exceed it if I wanted to, but I don't really like to. Just because I want to be able to stay flexible. I want to be able to close positions if I need to. And the problem that I'm running into personally with the Tastyworks account is that I've done a lot of cash secured puts and covered calls. And over the years, I've been assigned stock, or I've been, so now I've got stock in there that I'm holding, like Delta Airlines and Bank of America, which, they're not terrible stocks. Delta's got a while to go before we start flying again regularly. I'm sure it'll come back, but it is consuming a lot of my buying power. And so I'm kind of at the point where there are very few trades I can do at this point because I've mentally not allowed myself to go over that 50% of my available buying power. And so, I'll do small trades that might risk, $200-$300.
Yeah, and I've always liked that, Jerry, how you approach the because I've done a few options trades with you over the years, and you do a good job of kind of like, maybe the word isn't baby steps, but like you're not going in with risking like $100,000. You're gonna go in and you're gonna like kind of work your way into this.
Yes.
And and so at the end of the day, and that's, and again, psychology of money, but that's part of the show as well. But the basic concept is you have to ask yourself, and I think you've done this before. We basically feel losses twice as bad as we feel gains. Do you guys know that?
Oh, I know it. I know it.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, yeah.
So the feeling of a loss is twice as bad of a feeling, apparently, than a gain. Gains, we kind of will be like, oh, great, I'm brilliant. Brush it off. Like, that's great. But then a loss, it's like, oh my God, I'm the worst, So managing that emotional world, but you're going into this, knowing a lot about your own risk aversion or tolerance for risk. And then projecting into the future about how you're going to feel, right? Like, I know you don't like to lose any money. No one does, but you might lose a few $100s, but you're not going to lose, something that you might really, really regret.
Exactly. The way I look at it, I mean, if I were starting out fresh today with a Tastyworks account, I would look at it in terms of slots that I have for available options trades, and each options trade has a max loss. So let's say I had, $10,000, I might want to do no more than 10 trades, each consuming, a few $100s of risk, and that's it. Their mantra is trade small, trade often. So, I would have X number of slots available, consuming different amounts of, it'd be ideal to have them all consistently using a couple $100 of buying power. So I could have lots of trades, not exceeding half of the net liquid, not exceeding $5,000 worth of the value of the account. And then, one.
So you guys,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
sorry.
I'm done.
Oh, I was wondering. So you guys both, like you and Bob, so you guys do know your max loss going into any of your trades, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Right.
I like to,
yeah, absolutely.
Generally, it depends on the account size, and that's kind of a different function. The max loss, I like to cap it at maybe 2% of the account value. I would never like to lose more than 2% of the account value in a single trade, but that may not always align properly with the buying power that you have. So you kind of have to look at it from both angles and find a trade that's appropriate for your risk tolerance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys, it's like, and it's so resonating with me, this conversation, because I'm finding right now in this COVID pandemic world that we're trying to navigate, that almost every day is some sort of risk reward calculation. Do you guys find yourself in that at all?
Absolutely. Well, it's the whole market landscape is changed so much that it really is about risk aversion, managing risk, right? And I think that has really, I think it's more front of mind now than ever with investing and trading.
I'm just such a big fan of like what you guys are doing, because it's like, again, and I think this is like such a lesson learned that our audience can take with them. Like, know your risk going into every investment you do. And obviously we can't calculate everything, but just try to project yourself into the future if you were to lose it, or if you were to make some or not make as much as you thought. And that's why we always talk about like, diversifying not only our investments, but our investing strategies, vehicles. Right. Yeah, you guys know that I like investment trusts. I like traditional real estate. And again, those could have their problems too. But, I like the idea of being diversified among all these different areas.
Definitely.
So,
absolutely.
So that's good. That's good stuff, Jared. What other ways do you manage your account?
One other thing, I don't know if it's not so much. It is kind of a management thing, but when you do use margin, and let me give an example of a put that I sold a couple weeks ago in a company called Stitch Fix. For me to go out and buy 100 shares of Stitch Fix and hope that it appreciates would cost me over $2,000, with the stock price being where it was a few weeks ago, like $2,600. But for me to sell a put on that only consumes about $330 of buying power with the brokerage that I was using to conduct that transaction. So think about that. I'm getting similar return if the stock goes up or stays where it is, like owning it, except I'm only using, a very small percentage of the buying power to get that transaction done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Now, some of the stocks, I think, Jerry, maybe educate me or just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of the stocks won't even let you use margin or a limited amount of margin.
That's correct. Right? Yeah. Some of the riskier, more volatile stocks, the brokerages are not going to give you, 75% or 50%. They're going to make you put up all of the cash, all of the buying power for those types of stocks. And then on the other end, I've noticed in other accounts, if I want to buy some government bonds, man, they're going to let me go crazy with those, like 7 times my available cash, because they're deemed so safe that they're willing to go out on a limb and front me the extra cash for those bonds.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting.
Have you guys heard? Have you heard of this guy named Dan? I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right.
Ariely. Yeah, I've read some
Ariely.
of his books.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. So you're okay. Totally. So he's a behavior economist at a company called Capital, or a think tank called Capital. And I just started and I know he's written a bunch of books. But yeah, I started doing some research on him, and I just found it like fascinating. And for the audience, like, to know that, what I've really been interested in, there's been in the last few years this huge revolution in behavioral economics, where before all the models, I think we had talked about this in one of the earlier podcasts, before all the models were basically saying that every human being on the planet, acts totally rationally in their own self-interest, and they behave in these ways. And so we can build all these models and understand them and like what they're going to do. And what new like behavioral economists are saying is that people act very irrationally, in fact, and they act not in their best behavior like all the time. So one of the things this guy was talking about one of the different mediums I was watching him in, he said, for example, he says, we waste our time and money like all the time, right? Like, that's always something that we're kind of like working against. And then other thing he said is he's like giving people information does not work. Like if that's just giving them the information actually doesn't change their behavior. And he talks a lot about the friction of he talks about friction, like the things, the barriers to to investing, right, or to doing the right thing. And so one of the things they always talk about is like automatically enrolling people, right, in their 401k instead of having people opt in, right? If you have them have to take a bunch of
not
extra
trusting
steps,
that somebody's going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess apparently people typically won't, and we constantly discount the future, right? We have present moment bias, and it's very hard to get out of the way of our own human nature. And so what Dan was talking about is like, he's like, we've done all these things. Like he said, think about our physical environment. Like we've invented like houses and cushy chairs, and like we realize we're kind of these like fragile creatures. And he's like, we can't run very, what I mean? We can't run very fast, so we invented cars. We can't fly, right, so we invented planes. But he said we've done very little in terms of dealing with our cognitive limitations. He said, we're not all knowing. We've done a great job with the physical environment, but we've done not a very good job with our mental environment. And so he tries to do all these things to talk about ways that people can be better with their money. And so he talks about like the pain of paying. That was one I found interesting. Do you guys know that so credit cards, and I guess Amazon would be like clicking Amazon's the same thing. It totally takes the pain of paying away. When we have to give up like a gold bar or cash, we like feel it.
My
more.
bullion.
Yeah, right. Like when we have to give somebody, like if you had like a bag of gold coins or like a bag of $20 bills, and then you had to go pay for go buy a car or something or whatever, you feel it a lot when you hand over that money. But apparently when we click on Amazon and we swipe a credit card, we don't feel any pain. We just, we do a little swipe and then we go on our merry way. And then all of a sudden, you know what I mean? You have a country that like people that are just totally in debt.
Yeah. This magical action gives me this? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's like waving a plastic wand.
Yeah, it seems like people discount or don't consider the future repercussions of what they're doing now in the present. And it is very easy to, I think you're talking about kind of the one click that Amazon has added. You just click the button right there. They've got your credit card. They've got your address,
that's right.
And it's going right to your house in a few hours.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, and I do it too. But at the same time, I'm trying to balance my bad behavior out by buying Amazon stock. You know what I mean? Because then I'm part of part of the cash flow on the other end, right? You want to be part of the cash flow on both sides.
Yeah.
What can you guys think of things that you do, I guess, to be more in line with your better angels, or to be more in line with I guess the word is setting yourself up for success. Are there things that you guys do to set yourself up for success when it comes to money and finances and investing?
I don't do this personally, but I do think it's a good best practice. So I'll just say that first. But I've read that a lot of people will take their credit cards out of Amazon and any of the e-commerce sites. So before they make that impulse purchase, they actually have to go in, find their credit card, dig it out of their wallet, type it in, get the expiration date right, get the CVV, do all that first. And if you can't, find it within yourself to, look around the house for your credit card and enter it in, then maybe, this really is an impulse buy of something you don't need that bad. So
that's a brilliant example, because you just that's what Dan was talking about. He talks about so you that person, or you're going to do that someday. That person who does that is creating friction against the bad behavior.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So there's friction against the bad. You're not smoothing the path for the bad
Right.
behavior.
Right. Which is Amazon.
I shouldn't say bad behavior. I don't mean it like I don't mean it like bad and good.
Right.
I just mean it like, it probably isn't in your best interest over the long run. I mean, so
yeah. Another one that I've heard too is to only not use credit cards and just pay with cash with things that you need. Now that's not always realistic. In today's society, if you have insurance bill or whatever. But I mean, the idea is to take a look at what you have in your checking and not exceed it, basically, because you can easily do that with credit cards and multiple credit cards. But if you kind of get to cash or use maybe one of those Visa or MasterCard debit cards, that is going to maybe help you feel that friction or pain or whatever psychological event we're talking about here that prevents you from going crazy on these impulse purchases.
Yeah, I know for us it was there was a couple things we were doing. Like many people out there, we fell victim to the credit cards, right? And it's exactly to that point of, it's so easy to buy something when you don't have to worry about what's in your bank account, right? You feel like, oh, somebody else is giving me their bank account, but it's not thinking about the future damage or repercussions. And years ago we fell victim to that, and we found ourselves digging our way out of a hole. We finally got out, and we got to the realization that, okay, we need to take all these cards, we need to go put them in a drawer somewhere, and we're not using them unless we have the money in the account. Then we felt that was more of the extreme reaction, and what we should really be doing is actually using the cards to our advantage. So this is something, this is actually something that Grandpa taught me. I think he taught us, is that, don't use your credit card unless you're going to get something out of it. So whether it's reward points for gas, hotel stays, flights. So we'll actually use a credit card if we get some sort of reward points out of it and pay it off that same month, even though we'll have plenty of money to pay for whatever we're buying. So we've started to kind of be of that mindset and make that work for us.
That's a good one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, so there's also so that's really good. And there's also ways that we talk about where it's like you smooth the path to the more successful actions. A couple, one of my favorite quotes is, and I think it's anonymous actually, but it's first you make your habits, and then your habits make you.
That was
right.
Me. Yeah. That was me.
So was that? Yeah, that was Jerry. That was Jerry Texas.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, Jerry Texas. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So and I know all you guys are good at this, because I know at the end of the day, I have a lot, like I talk about, I have a lot of fun with the Robinhood investing, but like I've said, I really look at that as fun money. I mean, what I'm really going to probably retire on is the consistency of the 401k, because it's so consistent, it's so automated, and there's a lot of friction for me to go in, start messing with it. So like I do have to find the password, go into a special site. So it really is on autopilot, but that is what you got to do, is get that thing on autopilot, ASAP, in my opinion. And then, really try to not, touch it. I have borrowed from mine, but in my defense, that was part of it was to buy a house. So I thought to myself, okay, so I'm borrowing from this asset to buy another asset. I didn't borrow from it to, go to Tahiti.
It's a perfectly healthy strategy in the playbook too. Borrow from one asset to accumulate more assets. It's not, it's not the end of the world.
Sure. Leverage, right? Leverage.
Yeah.
Another one I heard, you guys will get a kick out of this, but people have done this before. They actually in their mind, in terms of like dealing with their money, I read somewhere it's like try to like imagine your future self, and this is like a weird exercise because not a lot of us done this, but like imagine yourself at 70, and I'm gonna have like so much Botox, so much like plastic surgery done. Like,
the hair plugs are gonna be phenomenal.
Like, oh man, the hair plugs! Like I'm totally bald right now, and I'm gonna have like really thick, like dark hair,
like Fabio hair.
I'll be like one of those older guys that's like too tan. You ever seen those guys? Like you're like, dude, you're too tan at 70, dude. Like don't
like leathering of the skin. Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
But the point is, like, actually have a conversation with your future self, and not literally, but like imagine it and just imagine, hey, you can do the math. Imagine if you did consistently do that, $200 a week or whatever it was consistently. And if you're getting a 7% return and you start getting the compounding, someday you're going to wake up and, decade will go by or 2 decades and you're going to be like, oh, dang, I'm really happy I did that. That was, it's good to have that. So.
Agreed.
Yeah,
It sounds like, kind of in summary, you want to create, you want to make it as easy. You want to remove as much friction as you can for the good behaviors, and you want to create as much friction as possible for the bad behavior.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was the big thing I got. And I would encourage people to go check out this Dan. How do you say it again?
The way I've heard it pronounced is Ariely.
Ariely. Okay. He's the Israeli chief behavior economist. I don't know. I found you did a bunch of
which
TED
book were you reading of his?
I was actually watching YouTubes of him. So I was watching the TED Talks. Yeah. I should read some of his books too. It just reminded me of some really good stuff to talk about, especially as we're investing. Because I think so. I guess I'll say this. I think the psychology part is even more important than ever because of what we talked about in one of our recent shows. We are now in the Robinhood world of investing, right? So everything, again, you think about it, there's now no friction to investing. I turn on I don't even turn on my iPhone. It's always on. I just click on Robinhood and I swipe right, and pretty much I'm invested.
That's not Robinhood, Greg.
Did you swipe right or swipe left on that one?
That's a good one. I'm way out of that era, so I would have no idea.
You fell into that one.
That was pretty good. Whatever way you swipe on Robinhood. But you guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, Robinhood has made, I think, the psychology even more important than ever.
Yeah.
Because again, there is way less friction now, which is in some ways great. But in some ways, we've got to get our heads straight.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, in some ways bad because I think when you have people that are new to the investing and they hear these get rich quick stories or they watch these YouTube channels and they think that it's that easy, right? And they just think they need to have a bunch of money in an account, see something they like and buy a bunch of it, and then that's it. It's going to make me money, and not understanding that there is a whole world that they need to understand and know when they're investing. And it's been made easier to also lose money as well if you're not mindful of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's in one of the you guys will find this really fascinating, and I kind of like fantasized about this in one of Dan's whatever things he talked about. Sometimes he says with portfolios he actually believes that it's almost a good idea at times to like, this is gonna sound crazy, but like completely, as the world turns and as like things change and we deal with coronavirus and the new world order or whatever we're dealing with, he said at times it might be a good idea to just like completely sell everything and imagine building a portfolio from the ground up. Like what would you, because he said a lot of times these portfolios, like they get years down the line and maybe people aren't making the right adjustments. They're kind of not, you know what I mean? They're not tinkering enough to kind of, I know like for example, with my Robinhood in particular, I have really actually been thinking a lot over the last 6 months about a post COVID world, or a way to deal with the COVID world, and then thinking to myself, what are the opportunities, and then what's going to grow after this, and what's going to diminish. And I think we're all seeing that some things are going to diminish and some things are going to grow. But if you kind of just had like a pre-COVID portfolio, I don't know, it might be some adjustments.
Yeah. I think selling everything and buying new, I mean, not only could there be tax implications, but there may be some stocks that will recover over the long term. So I mean, that's kind of drastic to sell everything and start again, but I do see the point that times are changing, and in this future world that we're kind of moving into, there are going to be different opportunities. It seems to me that from what I've been reading and what I've been seeing is, cloud, internet, anything that doesn't require a physical presence anymore seems to be doing really well. Services, music, video, all kinds of stuff like that. And then Amazon just being able to order things to your home immediately, anything you need, anytime. Those are kind of seems to be where it's at. But it's hard to say kind of where things are going to go from here.
Right. So, think it through, do your research, know your risk, be diversified in your asset classes and your approaches. I mean, this is what I think. This is how I kind of like to approach things. Yeah, I love it. Guys, the time goes really fast on these shows. So it's like, we always get to like our point in them, and I'm like, darn, I look forward to this all week.
It does. But you always bring up really good topics, and we enjoy going through them with you, and we learn a lot along the way.
Yeah, this is awesome. Well, thanks to everybody who's out there listening. And I don't know, guys, you guys have any today or anything else to add?
I'm just anxious for what the market's going to do this next week. For me, it's like I want everybody to be mindful and be safe with their investments and their where they're putting their money, because I think Friday was a little rocky with the tech industry, and I feel like that might be a rumblings before the volcano erupts and the earthquakes happen and the seas part. So I just think going into this next week and continuing through this quarter, I just want to make sure that people are mindful, have a game plan, possible exit strategies, and know how to hedge their bets. But that's kind of where my head's at right now.
Yeah, good advice. Proceed kind of cautiously.
What are you guys eyeing this week? Anything in particular?
I'm looking at VIXes.
That's for volatility, right?
That's volatility. I'm looking to, I may look at some puts actually on Tesla and Apple for a short term. I don't know if that's going to be a long term put, but and then me and my MVIS, so we're just buying on the dips and accumulating and whatnot for MVIS, just waiting for our the big buyout. So
nice. Yeah, I don't have much going on. I'm always trying to stay diversified, and I'm constantly looking at commodities and currencies to see kind of which ones are leading right now. but nothing really that I've decided to do yet. I'm just kind of cautiously watching things. I do have a lot of options positions that I'm busy managing. The pullback this Thursday and Friday kind of helped with a lot of them. So because everything went kind of way too up high, way too fast, too far too fast. So the pullbacks are kind of helping. My concern is probably the opposite of yours, Bob, is just that everything kind of returns back to where it was instantly and keeps jetting higher and higher. Before I can actually collect on some of the positions I've sold. So
yeah, I mean that is, you're right. I mean that is the other side to it, is that because we have seen them, we have seen these rebounds, these very quick rebounds, and it's before you can even blink your eyes, like it's already, in the
rear view.
I hear you.
Well, this is what is exciting about it and creates opportunities, right? Because the news, the news kind of impacts things and people's moods and behavior. We were talking about today, right?
Yeah.
People's massive collective behavior influence the markets, and Warren Buffett believes that that's a great opportunity for us as investors. So,
awesome.
Absolutely,
totally into it. All right, guys. Well, hey, have a great week. I know we'll be talking a little bit in between. And thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.